For years, the BC government has promised bold moves to fix the housing crisis: zoning reform, flipping taxes, short term rental bans. But here's the $1 million question: did any of it actually work? Today, we're stepping outside the usual market update to zoom out and look at the big picture: what's actually working in BC's housing strategy to improve affordability, what isn't working, and what still has a giant question mark hanging over it. Because whether you're buying, selling, or just trying to make sense of what's going on out there, knowing which policies are actually making a difference and which ones are just political noise could save you from making a very expensive mistake. And yes, I know prices have come down in some areas, but let's be real, that's got a lot more to do with interest rates, buyer fatigue, affordability ceilings, and economic uncertainty than it does with government policy. The real question isn't just, are prices lower? It's, why are they lower? And what happens next? Because if you're making your next move assuming the government fixed housing, you could be walking into a market that's about to get even more confusing, more expensive, or just stall out altogether. You only get one chance to buy or sell your next home. Let's get it right. So what sparked the idea for this video? I came across the Fraser Institute report, or an article, I guess, that basically lays it all out. Every major housing policy BC has rolled out in the past few years. Zoning changes, flipping taxes, rent control, subsidies, it's all in there. And they asked a question I think a lot of people are quietly thinking: is any of this working? Now, I haven't exactly been quiet about any of this. While most of the videos on this channel focus on living in Surrey and White Rock, I do speak out when the province rolls out changes that could reshape the market for better or for worse. So if you're new here, stick around and subscribe if you like that kind of content. And if you're thinking about buying or selling, you're going to want to book a call with me and my team. We'll make a game plan that works for you in today's market. So reading through the article, I couldn't help but think about what I've seen on the ground, working with buyers, sellers, families, and investors. And if I'm honest, it felt like watching someone throw a bunch of tools at a leaky roof. Some of them have great potential. Some probably do more harm than good. And a lot of them we just don't really know yet. Because real impact does take time, and most people don't have time to sit back and wait until the system figures it out. The other interesting piece about monitoring these changes in housing is that you don't buy or sell real estate typically overly often. It's something most people do every 5 to 10 years. So that means even when a new policy change comes out, it doesn't really make that big of a difference to you because your time buying or selling kind of comes and goes, and then you kind of forget about it and move on with your life. So in this video, I'm breaking it down in plain English so you can make smarter, more confident decisions without the spin, the headlines, or the politics. We're going to look at two really simple things: what's actually working and what's not. And be sure to stick around to the end because it's the stuff that isn't working that might be quietly hurting your options without you even realizing it. So let's start with some of the good news, some of the things that are working really, really well, as according to the Fraser Institute. Zoning reform has been one of the most impactful changes that we've seen. For decades, cities like Surrey were locked into single family zoning. That meant that if you owned a lot, you could build one home. Period. That's it. No duplex, no laneway, no flexibility. It was like trying to fight a forest fire with a garden hose, meaning massive demand out there, tons of underused land, but a system that said, no thank you. In 2024, that all changed. The British Columbia government stepped in and made it legal to build up to 4 units on most single family lots, even 6 if you're near transit orientated areas. And that's massive. It unlocks frozen land and makes way for what we've all been begging for: more family friendly, attainable housing options. Think things like duplexes, townhomes, small multiplexes, homes that people can actually live in, not just bid on. Cities like Surrey are now being nudged to pre-zone land, so builders don't have to wait years just to get going. The Fraser Institute called this the most promising policy shift, and they're not wrong, because without new supply, prices stay stuck. This doesn't solve everything, but it finally does lift one of the biggest barriers that's been holding this market hostage. Now, the province, they didn't just stop there. They also introduced new rules for transit-oriented development. What that means is more density near transit hubs like SkyTrain stations and major bus routes. This makes a ton of sense. It's not just about building more homes, it's about building them smarter, putting mid-rise housing where people already live and work, where the infrastructure exists, and where you don't need to drive 30 minutes just to go buy milk. For folks looking to live in walkable, connected neighborhoods, or even just avoid sprawl, this is a huge win. And for cities like Surrey, it's speeding up the revitalization of places and neighborhoods like Fleetwood and Cloverdale. Another one to watch, BC Builds. This one aims to deliver more below market rental housing, especially for middle income earners, teachers, nurses, tradespeople, people who make too much to qualify for subsidized housing, but not enough to afford market rents. It uses public land, low interest loans, and fast tracked approvals to build homes faster and cheaper. Now, it's still early days for this one, but if the program delivers on even half of what it promises, it could fill a major gap in the market. The Fraser Institute gives it a cautious thumbs up, saying if it can be delivered at scale, it may provide targeted relief where it's needed the most. And quietly, one of the most important changes happening is how the province is pushing cities to streamline permits and pre-zone entire areas. This cuts years off development timelines and removes that uncertainty that kills so many housing projects before they even start. If developers know what's allowed and they're not bogged down in endless red tape, more homes actually get built. That helps everyone from buyers to builders to the families stuck waiting for something affordable to show up. And finally, you've got the short term rental crackdown. This one's bold. As of 2024, investor owned Airbnbs are banned in most cities unless the unit is part of your principal residence. The idea here is to return homes to the long term rental market. The question is, will it work? And it's a little too soon to tell. Some areas are seeing Airbnb listings drop, and others aren't. The British Columbia Real Estate Association and others have raised real concerns that short term rentals aren't the core problem, it's still supply. But hey, this is a step and it could help, so it's one that's worth watching. Okay, so those are the wins that have come out from the government: zoning, transit, BC builds, faster approvals, and possibly even the short term rental reform. But here's the catch: some policies aren't helping at all. In fact, they might be quietly working against the very people that they were supposed to support. One that we've been incredibly vocal on this channel is rent controls. If you're a renter, rent control feels like a win. But when landlords and developers realize they can't adjust rents to cover rising costs, they stop offering rental units altogether. Suddenly, there's less supply, more demand, and higher prices for anyone trying to find a new place. That's not opinion. That's what the Fraser Institute data says. Or next, let's look at the layers of development charges, red tape, and permitting delays. Even if you're allowed to build more, it doesn't matter if you can't afford the fees or survive the approval process. Some projects are dying before they start, and those that do make it, well, the cost gets passed on to the buyer. And then there's the headline stuff. Things like speculation taxes, flipping taxes. Sounds pretty tough, right? But they're mostly symbolic. Flipping is already down. Most speculators have left the market long ago. These taxes add risk to builders and investors without tackling the root issue of supply. And even programs like the secondary suite subsidy, which offered up to $40,000 to homeowners, ended up flopping. It was confusing, slow, and not enough to make the math work for most homeowners. The province quietly suspended it in early 2025. And then there's also some wild cards, policies that might help, but we're still in the dark about their real impact. Things like the short term rental crackdown mentioned earlier. Or what about the speculation and vacancy tax, the flipping tax? The new step code building standards that can add tens of thousands of dollars to a home's price. Yeah, it's good for the environment, yes, but what's the impact on affordability? We don't have the long term data yet. And while these all might be well intentioned, they come with real trade offs for real people. People who relied on short term rentals to pay their mortgage, people being taxed as speculators just for owning a second home, people priced out of the market that's trying to get greener, but not necessarily more affordable. So, where does all of that leave us? Some policies are finally moving the needle, and others have potential. But a lot of what we've seen so far, it's either not working or hasn't been proven or is accidentally hurting the very people it was meant to help. And most buyers and sellers can't afford to make decisions based on guesswork or political talking points. If you're thinking of making a move, whether that's buying, selling, or just exploring your options, you need to move with your eyes wide open because you only get one chance to buy or sell your next home, so you want to get it right. And let me ask you, which of these policies do you think is helping or hurting the most? Have you personally felt any of the effects of them? Drop me a comment in the comment section below. I read every one, and your story might help someone else navigate their next steps too. And if you found this video helpful, make sure you're subscribed because in the next video, I'm diving deeper into the zoning changes I mentioned in this video that shook up the entire province. If you're unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, we're going to cover what they are, what they actually mean for homeowners, developers, and for first-time buyers here in Surrey and White Rock, or really anywhere in British Columbia, and how to make the most of the opportunity while it's still relatively fresh. If that sounds good, I'll see you over on that video coming up next right now.
The residents of this neighborhood don't know it yet, but this neighborhood is going to be completely upended over the coming years about new zoning regulations that are taking effect all across British Columbia.